Behaviour has made plenty of poor decisions over the course of DBD's lifetime, like repeatedly nerfing an already bad character, completely gutting certain perks, randomly buffing and nerfing healing every few months, or simply neglecting unfair characters and perks for entire years at a time. But this sort of stuff does happen in lots of other live service games too, perhaps not to the extreme level of DBD, but still, we can cut behaviour some slack in that regard. That being said, there are some things that DBD's devs have done over the years that aren't quite as understandable and leave you questioning just how on earth they let that happen, such as leaking their own private development files to their entire PC player base, or even worse, infecting their player base with spyware. Well, that's exactly what the headlines on news sites were reporting, and the story is much bigger than just DBD, so much so that the story actually began with a different game entirely. The story begins all the way back in June of 2018 after a post was made on the Steam subreddit by a user named AlexSpeed75 talking about a game called Holy Potatoes We're in Space. In the post, Alex explains that the developers of Holy Potatoes supposedly added spyware into their game to track their players, and in turn received such a massive backlash that they actually went back and removed it. The post then went into detail explaining that the spyware added into the game could be used to track the data of your PC and share it with third parties, suggesting that your data could be sold if you played any games with this spyware in it. The post even had a subsection titled "What can you do if they include spyware in your game?", which listed that you can complain to the developers, not buy their games, or even refund games you already own if possible, and even showed players how to block their connection to the alleged spyware's servers. Already, you can tell just how big of a deal this was. People just wanted to play some video games, not be used to harvest data and sell it on for a profit. If it was just Holy Potatoes, which is what I presume to be an indie game that was using this supposed spyware, that likely would have been the end of it. But as I'm sure you already figured out, this was absolutely not the end of it. The post also mentioned how some much bigger games were also using the exact same software, which was once again supposedly made for gathering data on its players. These two games were Elder Scrolls Online and Conan Exiles. Unlike Holy Potatoes, these two games hit much closer to home as many more people played these games and could have even had them installed at the time of reading. This revelation drove the point even deeper, and people realized that this could be a much more widespread issue than initially expected. The name of this alleged spyware program? Red Shell. The post absolutely exploded and gained a huge amount of traction, with over 3,500 upvotes, and it sparked a widespread debate on privacy in gaming, with multiple tech news sites covering it. Just to name a few headlines: PC Mag, spyware, PC game marketing tool triggers privacy backlash. PC Games N, Total War, Vermintide, and more are dumping controversial tracking program Red Shell. Massively OP, more MMOs pledge to fully remove Red Shell spyware, including Secret World Legends. Wired, dozens of PC games drop tracking software after surveillance fears. By now, it's safe to say that this had people worried, and now dozens of people who saw that Reddit post were wondering which other games they play were also using Red Shell, including DBD players. So they went and checked. Just like you should check if you're subscribed to the channel. Nearly 85% of people watching this video aren't subscribed, so if you enjoy the content, help me out with a sub. And what did players find within DBD's files? None other than redshell.dll. This now meant that if Red Shell was tracking and compiling data on players like the Reddit thread suggested, then DBD players were having their information farmed too, just like Holy Potatoes and the others. As soon as players found Red Shell within DBD, additional threads and posts immediately spilled over into the DBD subreddit, Steam forum, and DBD forum. Players were not happy. In the DBD forums, user Zyrony posted, "Just read a Reddit post that has me concerned a bit. It's about spyware in game files, with DBD being mentioned in this list. Can the devs comment on this? Red Shell is the spyware, which is clearly against GDPR." Another user, Satsui, posted, "I would like to kindly ask the devs to remove the spyware Red Shell, or at the very least present an option to opt out of it. I find this unacceptable, especially in the light of the recent GDPR change." Or even this post in the Steam forums saying Dead by Daylight is using Red Shell spyware without informing its users. Real talk, first of all, why the need of Red Shell? Secondly, why does users not get informed about it? And most importantly, why is there no opt-out option considering EU's GDPR makes the use of Red Shell, if undeclared and with no option to opt out, illegal? There's some work to do, devs. Now, something that every single post has mentioned is GDPR, and for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a law in the EU that stands for General Data Protection Regulation, and as you might have guessed, it's a law targeting privacy and data collection as well as the storing of said data. I'm not an expert on this matter by any means, but when the users in the posts bring up GDPR and saying Red Shell goes against it, the general point they're making is that they feel the data Red Shell could be gathering is against their will, that they didn't agree to it, and therefore is not GDPR compliant. I think it's important to verify exactly what data Red Shell was collecting on players. So I went to Red Shell's official website, redshell.io, to see if they list what their software is capable of, but the website is now offline at the time of making this video, meaning either Red Shell doesn't exist anymore or the site is simply down for maintenance. But thankfully, on the DBD forum, user RushBNaked did the exact same thing back in 2018 and wrote it down in this comment. What type of information does Red Shell track? Red Shell tracks information about devices. We collect information including operating system, browser version number, IP address, screen resolution, and font profiles. And they claim this came from the official Red Shell website at redshell.io/gamers. And while many of the forum posts said that DBD did not inform the users of this data gathering, a user on Steam actually read through DBD's terms of service at the time, and it did indeed mention consent to monitoring. While it didn't mention Red Shell specifically and used incredibly vague language, I would say that probably counts. With debates raging on over the course of pages and pages of forum comments, it was clear that players were not happy about this. Things needed to change. And by the 11th of June 2018, a maximum of 11 days since the initial Holy Potatoes Reddit post, Behavior had already released an official response to the Red Shell spyware claims. And it read, "We integrated Red Shell with the goal to track the efficiency of our marketing campaigns, how many players clicked on our advertisements on social media platforms and then purchased the game afterwards. There was never any intention to sell data to third parties. That being said, we have seen the player frustrations expressed about the use of this technology. Our passionate and dedicated fans are the reason why Dead by Daylight is a success, especially the ones who have been with us from the beginning. We have removed Red Shell from Dead by Daylight in the 2.0.0 update coming on the 12th of June. The Dead by Daylight dev team has always incorporated player feedback into the game and the direction of the design. Your voice is incredibly important to us and we are monitoring your feedback closely." And with that, the very next day, on the 12th of June 2018, the Red Shell quote-unquote spyware was removed from DBD, never to return again.